Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good. Would you state for the record your name, please?
Ben Riley.
All right, Mr. Riley. It's a pleasure to have you here today. I want to thank you for helping me with this, and we want to get right down to why you're here and what this session is about. Um, you came to me and shared with me some of the issues that you've been having recently as far as erectile dysfunction, or ED is what we will call it.
Okay.
Can you tell me a little bit about when that started and how you noticed what happened initially?
Originally, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, or maybe a little longer. Just noticed didn't have really no energy, kind of depressed, down, uh, no kind of sex drive, and that's really not like me. Uh, so, being who I am, I figured that that was a little not normal, so I needed to get some things checked out to see what was going on. I had heard of older people, older men going through that, but I had never experienced that. But seemed like I was experiencing some of the things that men sit around the table and talk about under the shade tree. So,
Okay, I heard a couple of things that you just alluded to. First of all, that uh, your sex drive, there's never been anything wrong with your sex drive.
no, it hasn't been.
Never experienced any problems until
No,
now.
no.
Well, and also you said that you've heard men speak uh, who are older.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. With people that's 55, 60 years old, a lot of times when you're sitting around and just shooting the breeze with the men talk per se, older guys pretty well try to give you knowledge of what may happen to you if you keep living
Mhm.
and being a man. So, and some, especially being a black man, with we usually have a sense of high sex drive. So when that kind of goes out of whack, then there's some of the things with your prostate, your testosterone, different things like that that you need to look into to be able to tap into what your problem is.
Mhm. So I heard you say testosterone. So
Yes.
one of the questions that I posed to you was about your health and if you actually went to see a doctor and what did the doctor have to say about that. Can you just give me a little bit of background about your health, your overall health, and then tell me about what you saw the doctor last for?
Okay, basically, I've always gone to the doctor at least every year, the last 10 years or so, to just get a physical, get an update of where I am with my body. I'm a little overweight. I knew that, but being as a black man, you have to be cautious of high blood pressure, diabetes, whatever. I don't have any of those, but theoretically, you have to get those things checked. So every year I go, I was having some issues with what we just elaborated earlier about being kind of down, depressed, no kind of sex drive or whatever. And so I just bumped my examination for my doctor up. Went into the doctor. He told me not to drink anything after 12 o'clock the night before, and that they was going to do some blood work, and he was going to just give me a thorough examination. Through that, I went to the doctor that morning. They drew 7, 8 vials of blood. He went over my did the heart rate, blood pressure, all that. Everything was fine. Besides me being a little overweight, he did checks, X-rays, and all that. Everything checked out fine. He told me give him 2 days, no more than 3 days, to get the lab work back, and he would call me or call me back in, and then we could discuss my blood work. So that happened. Came back in. He said he wanted to see me. And when he came back in the room, I went back, made the appointment. He said, "Well, sir, all your blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol is great." He said, "But I have an issue with your testosterone."
Mm-hmm.
So me being a male and not really knowing about a lot about the medical field, first thing out of my my mouth was, what is that? Well, he's got a chart up there on his wall, and it goes through like 10 different things of what actually testosterone is, or that cause your testosterone to go low. And I thought, well, oh, what is this? I didn't know. He started talking to me, and one of them was lack of sex drive, uh, feeling sad, depressed, losing a loved one. It was several different things that was on that chart. And so he started going over those things with me. Well, what about this? What about this? It was a little questionnaire thing that he was filling out at the time of basically going over those things. And so I told him I was kind of tired, fatigued, didn't know why. I was down, depressed, because I lost my brother recently, suddenly. I've been down for the last 10 years or so, but I battled by losing my family through a divorce, not having my kids, losing my job. Had a job now, but those were things still kind of bother me. And he said everything had kind of just balled up in one, and it pretty well took a toll. And then my testosterone level was like 60 something, and it was supposed to be anywhere from 900 to 1300. So I'm thinking, damn, what? Wow, am I gonna die or whatever? Because I don't know anything about that. And he said, no. He said, this is something that we can treat. I'm gonna set you up with giving 2 shots. Every 2 weeks, you come in and take a shot. After a series of shots, then I'll stop, take some more blood work, and see where it's at, and then we can monitor it from there. If you have some issues with being depressed, down, or whatever, losing your brother or your family and different things, then you may need to seek some help in that counseling area. And so basically that's why, and that's where I am today. Long story short, with the doctor for the medical, he got that under control. And go back to that, in my mind, I wanted to have sex or to have love making or whatever, but your body wouldn't go with that.
Right.
And then as a man, you have an ego, and so my thing was, well, just hell, I'll just shut it down and don't worry about it, because that really don't make me. That's just a pleasure that you have to kind of tip the scale a little bit. So I had a lot more to work on. But then he came back, gave me those shots. My testosterone went way over.
No.
So then he said, well, now I'm going to have to cut these shots back. We're not going to do anything for about 3 months, and then we'll check it out and see. But in the meantime, you need to get those other areas checked out. And periodically, we'll check your blood as you come in to see. So I got that regulated. So now I'm working on this part. Okay. And so that's why I am.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing all of that with me. I see that you went the correct route in getting that physical, that health initially, to see if there was something medically wrong or going out of whack that the doctor could address. And you did that, and it took care of it. And I'd like to tell you that I'm happy to hear that your levels went up.
Right.
Just briefly, you want to tell me, did it make you feel any different? How did that work, or did it change anything physically for you? We'll talk about the other aspects.
Physically, it did, for as the erections and stuff like that. But my mind was still at the point where it didn't get corrected. Okay. And so, I use a thing. You can always put a Band-Aid on a scratch, or take an aspirin or something for pain. But until you correct the pain, you still haven't. So that's why it's important to have counselors and people like you to tap into the mind, to try to get some help. So overall, you'll be complete, and you can move forward and be healthier instead of keep relapsing and relapsing. Because if you don't never correct the main issue, what's inside your heart and your mind, then the physical parts, you can always man up or override that or use excuse, but inside you can't do that. And so uh, that's where I am today.
Okay, Mr. Riley, if you don't mind, what I'd like to do is see you over the course of several visits,
Okay.
so that we can address those things. Um, what I'd like to do, though, just for my records and my assessments, is just to hit on a few of these topics so that I will kind of know where we're going with our therapy.
Okay, that'll be
Okay,
fine.
so I hear you saying that there were some things that caused you some stress, some anxiety, maybe even a little depression. Those are your words. That's not anything that I've attached to you.
Right, right. You're correct.
Okay, so let's maybe start with, I heard you say just not too long ago you lost a brother.
Yes.
You also lost a mother. You lost your family.
Right.
And I also
lost
heard
my
you say
job
something
and
about
all
a
that.
job.
Right.
So can we talk about those things first, and can we kind of go in a order of what happened first?
Well, throughout I lost my dad first out of my immediate family. Then I lost a brother suddenly.
Oh, I don't mean to interrupt you. Could you kind of give me a time frame what we're working with here?
Okay.
It doesn't have to be exact dates, but just so I kind of know.
15, 20 years ago, I lost my dad. Probably 5 years after that, I lost a brother. It was 5 kids. It was 4 boys and a girl. I'm the baby. So my middle brother, which it was an older brother or sister, then there's 3 boys, and I'm the third one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the third child died suddenly of a heart attack on the football field, coaching his little pee wee league. I knew he was sick, but not to the extent. So a sudden death like that, at being 40-something years old,
Mm-hmm.
it was dramatic because we hadn't really lost anybody but my dad. My dad had been battling throat cancer, lung cancer, asbestos, and all that for many years, 15 years. So eventually caught up with him. So you kind of be a little prepared, but death you never be compared, but be prepared for. So we did that. About 20 years my dad, about 15 years my brother, and then I went through divorce from my high school, elementary sweetheart of 17 and a half years. Had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and so my dream, my everything. So I lost that. Right after that, the divorce. That was about 13, 14 years ago. Uh, a year later, I lost my mom. Uh, and then the place where I worked for 20 years, it closed down. And so then now I've lost 3 people plus my family. And I'm a type to not show my emotions. I'm supposed to be cool, calm, and collective, strong will or whatever. So I bury that, I hide that. It's within. And so moved to Houston after a couple of 4 or 5 years doing a little arson and basically losing everything that I had. Never could really recoup my family or my kids. They was all going different directions or whatever. So it was basically a new chapter in my life that I wasn't ready to deal with nor prepared for. So then I moved to Houston about 10 years ago and got kind of a fresh start. People didn't know you. They didn't make fun of you. They didn't, because back home where I was from, we was respectable people. We did a lot for the youth. And we were good role models, football players, sports people, church going people. So everybody knew you. So went to big Houston, the third largest city in the United States, and so I could go to Walmart and nobody didn't know me. Mm-hmm. So that was a good thing. But inside, I was still empty. I was still hurting. Got a good job. So now I was trying to get back up on my feet, and so I recouped the job. But you can't recoup the deaths. You can't recoup your family. You can't recoup the history of love. So you have to pick up the pieces and move forward. So it was a little still slow with me doing that because of the simple fact a lot of that I had buried within. So a lot of people didn't know. Uh, Through my divorce, I did go to counseling about 8 to 10 times, but then my spouse said that nobody could counsel her, so I was just going to that alone. I think it helped some just talking it out, but reality was you just give us the tools to try to get things better, but ultimately you have to do it on yourself and your own. And so that's why having a good relationship with God is going to make things okay. So I know that you can help me, and it's several. We can meet 4 or 5 different more times, but ultimately I have to get some tools, and you have to get some things from me, and me from you, and I have to put it together like a crossword puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle, or whatever, and mount it and make the picture. So that's where I am. Then I was doing pretty good. My next to me, my brother, we was talking uh, the night before he died, and just shooting the breeze. We was planning a little family reunion. He was good about barbecuing and cooking and stuff. So me and him was having a battle about how meat had went up and briskets, ribs and stuff. Back when I bought it, brisket was $20-something. He said, "Boy, briskets are $40 and $50 and $60 now." I didn't believe it. Went to Walmart. So I called him the night before he died, and I told him, I said, "Well, brother, I have to give you a apology because I went to Walmart and that brisket was $50-something." He said, "I told you, you just hard-headed." He said, "You won't listen to me." So we shot the breeze. We talked. We told each other we loved it. But the next evening, my oldest brother called me about 5:45, and he said, my brother's name was Carl. He said, "Hey brother, what you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Well, I just got a call that our brother just fell out at the football field. It don't look good. I'll call you back." When they called me back to give me some information. So probably about, it seemed like it was forever, but it probably wasn't about 30 minutes. He called back and said, "Hey, little bro, he didn't make it." So get myself together, trying to make sure that he's all right, my sister's all right, because they're elderly people. They 66 and 64 years old. So I live about 160 miles from them. So now I got to get situated and get down there so I can see what's going on. So then after that happened, about 8 months or whatever, then this here problem started. So I went to the doctor, and then so now I'm here with you at this present time.
Okay, I can see that was tough for you to relive that, but I just want to, I guess, let you know and reassure you that the more you're able to verbalize these things that you have internalized for so long, they become a little bit easier to deal with, to face, and to address head on. Would you agree with?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But the thing of it is that person that's dealing with that, and you're 100% right, but that person that's dealing with that has to be ready to do that.
Right.
And so over time, I guess that old saying, "Time heals all wounds." Over time, you let out more and more, and then it'll probably help. So
are you ready to deal with those things? You feel like you're ready?
I feel like I am.
Okay. All right. And I can't imagine the loss, all of it, and having to start over. So I really, hats off to you for that. So the doctor has kind of addressed that health issue, the medical part of it. So we're here to kind of address the other things that you internalized and you kind of let go. Now I want to go back for just a minute and your middle brother, I believe you said, was who died on the football field, and then the brother next to you also died on a football field.
Yes.
Correct?
What happened was the first brother that died, he was coaching his little football league team, and a kid ran and scored a touchdown, and he ran down there to pick him up to congratulate him because that was his first touchdown of the season. And he picked the little boy up and hugged him, they said, and gave him a hug and told him, "I love you, I'm proud of you," and turned around and take him back to the sideline and fell dead right there. The one that just recently died, he was doing some officiating. So they was doing a sub-varsity, a junior varsity game right outside of where our hometown is, and they kicked the ball off, and he went down and was ready to place the ball so then the offense could take over in the defense, and he had a massive heart attack, and that's where he died. So that's where it was.
All right. So your father, you said, was dealing with cancer.
Yes.
Was that a over time period?
Yes,
or?
so he battled, like I said earlier, he battled cancer for over 15 years.
Okay.
He took early retirement at 55 because he had cancer. The factory he worked at, back in the day, they didn't give them safety meetings or breathing apparatuses or whatever. So that black dust had accumulated in his lungs, and basically that's the asbestos and the silicosis. So I might not be using the correct terms, but those things is basically what gave him cancer. Plus he was a drinker and a smoker at one time. So accumulation of several different things. But then the factory where he worked, the employees filed a lawsuit against them because they wasn't giving him the proper training, whatever, and they got compensation for that, for his money and stuff, because the company was negligent. And so that's what basically came to his demise, or his passing on to glory. It was basically his lungs just collapsed and he couldn't breathe anymore.
And your mother?
My mother, she was kind of a heavy-set lady. She always dealt with rheumatoid arthritis. She had a little odds and ends for high blood pressure, but she went in for a sleep apnea test. She didn't really like nothing smothering over her nose or whatever, so she couldn't really do that test that night. So me and my oldest brother and his wife, it took her that morning. The hospital called me about 4 o'clock and said, "You can come pick your mom up. We couldn't do the test. We're going to have to reschedule." So I told my sister, I said, "Hey," and when I was divorced at the time, so I was living with my mom. My sister was down at my mom's house as well. "I'm going to go get mom and then I'll be back." She said, "Okay." So I went to the hospital to pick up my mom, and she said, "Baby, I just don't feel good." So we was at the hospital on the second floor. So I said, "Well, ain't no use in waiting at 9 o'clock till the doctor's office open up. I'll just take you down, take you to the emergency room, and see if they can admit you or whatever, or do something like that." Because she had been in the hospital previous, maybe a month prior to that, just for some odds and end thing, blood clots, different things like that. So she said, "Okay, baby." So I went down, I called my sister and told her what I was going to do. And I used to formerly be an EMT, so I did clerical stuff, my internship kind of like at the hospital for the ambulance runs and all that there. So I knew a lot of the people, and like I said, we pretty known in that town. So we had kin people, or people we used to go to church with or whatever. Went down. One of my ladies that I went to school with was a respiratory therapist, so she said, "Go ahead and put in the room. We'll have the doctor come in." So I put in the room, and I helped her to get from the wheelchair onto the bed, and she grabbed me and started grasping for air. So I laid her down and ran in there and called code blue and whatever, and everybody ran in. And I knew the way she looked at me that she was gone. So They told me to wait outside. My classmate that was respiratory therapist, she was in there. She was trying to put the tube down her throat, and she looked at me while I was walking out the room, and a tear came down her eye. So I knew then that my mom was gone. So me being me, I go outside. I call everybody, my brother and my sister, tell them they need to get out here right away because mom is not gonna make it. They back in the back working on her, but I don't think she's gonna survive. So everybody gets out there. We went in there probably about 6 something, about 8 something. They came out and said that they pronounced her dead. So uh, that's where I was with that. So we deal with that, and then about 2 years ago, my brother died. So.
Um, life and death, that's something that we all have to deal with at some point. Um, and it sounds like that you've had more than your fair share.
I could say that. It all kind of happened all at once.
Yes.
If you have a family, you have a family, whoever in this world, we're born to die.
Right.
So that's going to happen. But just the way it was like a domino effect.
Right.
And
you have, I don't mean to cut you off, but your dad, it's like you kind of, and you can never really prepare yourself, really. But he had a sickness and a ailment which happened over time, over years.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like your mom passes away, your brother passes away, your brother passes away with no warning whatsoever.
Correct. And that was some of the sudden death, I think, to me, I've experienced it. It's harder than the prolonged it.
Right.
You don't want to lose any of them,
Right.
but you kind of try to get them and yourself prepared. And spiritually, God, thank God helps you. But regardless of what, I remember after that, I was rid off in the church. And I was having a real bad day. I was going to usher practice. And I think I'd been arguing with my ex-wife on the phone. And I went to usher practice. It was an older lady. We call them elderly ladies in the church that was usher. And she kind of was my adopted mom, she said. So she said, baby, it seems like you're just struggling today. Because everything we say or whatever, because I was usually hunkadory, jolly, could hide it real well. And I said, yeah. I said, Sister William, I said, it has been a good day. So she was telling me what? I said, well, I feel like Job in a way. Because everything is just collapsing on me. And she said, baby, you're not the only person that's going through something.
Mm-hmm.
She said, and with them big old broad shoulders of yours, why not you? Because God ain't going to put them on you can bear.
Right.
And I wanted to rip her head off, but inside it made me feel a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was just confirmation that I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to go through it
Right.
to get better. And so that's basically where I am now.
It sounds like you have a really good start. One of the things that we practice here ourselves is having that relationship and that foundation with our higher source, with God.
Right.
And we try to practice, if we can, and if you're willing, to give you some scriptures that will help you. And so if you don't mind, each time when you come, I will have some scriptures prepared for you, since you're a man of God, you believe,
Correct.
a Christian. And I'll give you those, and you read that, and you pray over that, and you meditate on it, if you will, if that's what you choose to do, and see if that can help you, just like your church mom helped you with that.
Correct.
So with all of the struggles that you've gone through, the loss, Um, you need something. You need someone to hold on to. But first of all, you have to know that you have to hold on to yourself.
Correct.
And that
You're
you
right.
have to encourage yourself when it seems like nothing else is encouraging you.
That's true.
Encourage yourself. And so I have, if you don't mind, I have 2 scriptures that I want to give you. And I have them written down, so when you get ready to leave, I'll send them home with you as well. I just kind of want to tell you what they are right now, if you don't mind, and let it kind of sit with you for a second. The first one is 1 John 4:16 through 19. And it says, "And so we know and rely on the love of God, the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world we are like Jesus. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because he first loved us." And I want you to think about that. And we'll talk about it when you come back and see how you can relate it to your life and what you're going through at this time. And we'll talk about that. And the other one that I have for you is Philippians 4:6 through 7. And it says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus."
Yes. And those things are true. Because I applied, that's the reason why I've made it this far. Because I have an anchor. And I know where my help comes from and my strength.
Right.
It's just the human part.
Yeah.
It's not when you want it. It's
Right.
My mom always said that he don't come when you want him to, but he's right on time. Because when I lost my family, I used to lay in bed at my mom's house and would think that it would be no end.
Mm-hmm.
The end was just right there.
Mm-hmm.
But that loss still is a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
But it got better where I can cope and deal with it, and at peace with it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It still sometimes it irritate me in a sense, but for the most part, it gets better. So time and those are some good scriptures. So I appreciate you for.
That's why I'm here. But the thing is, we touched upon some of those things that you lost, and so we have to figure out a way. You have to figure out a way to regain some of those things. Like you said something very profound earlier. You said, and I know that you know this, you said, "I can't get back. You can't get back that." So you can't get back those loved ones that you've lost.
Correct, right.
You may or may not, we've talked about that in your first session about your hopes for your family and whatever.
Correct.
We talked about that, but that is no guarantee either.
Right.
But what we do know is that if you work on self, everything else will fall into place one way or another. And we want to make Ben a whole person and able to withstand and stronger. And so when you talk about some of these things that you're mentioning to me now, we can talk with them. You may feel stronger, if that's a word that I could use. Death hurts, losing loved ones hurt. But initially, what you want to get to, you told me earlier, is you want to get to the point where you can say, "Yeah, I did, but look at me now."
Correct, right.
Look at me now. And so that's what we want to get to. So we talked about, and in an assessment I gave you, and I found that you lost your job, and that there's some things there initially when you started off.
Correct, right.
That you didn't feel too confident in that job with your some of the tasks that they gave you to do. Hit on that just a little bit for me.
The ones that was back home, or the new job?
Well, whatever you feel.
Well, the old jobs, it was basically I'd been there 20 years. The first 10 years was manual labor type job. It was the best paying job in that town, in that little city. Um, so I made a lot of money, but you had to physically do the work. Then I went into the lab part of that operation. It was more cushion laid back. You had to deal with numbers. You had to tap into some of the things that I was good at because in school and different things like that, my strong point is math and different things like that and networking and talking to people. And so I was good at doing that, but it didn't pay the money that it did. So you had different challenges. One of the big challenges back then was shift work. You had to work rotating shift. My wife didn't really like that. We was kind of newlyweds, just getting into marriage. Didn't really know how to be a husband, wife, or even parents. So you have to grow into those things. You have to have life experiences to become better at. And so that was a big challenge. And then, I was a high school graduate, but I didn't have no college. And back then, people would say, well, if you don't have no education or no secondary education for us in college or whatever, you can't make it out there. You can't go anywhere else. So I was kind of using that as a crutch to stay at the paper mill back home. But then when they closed the doors, then I was forced with something. And so I was forced to be able to go out there and step out on faith and know that God had my back. And I networked with some of my friends, and they had jobs at different places. And that's why I ended up at the other places that I was working. And I was able to go in there and be successful and do what I need to do. I filibustered my way through, told them I could do a whole bunch, but I really couldn't. But once I got in there and I got trained, my ex-wife used to tell me back when we was in high school, junior high, I struggled with English. And she would always say, because I felt like I had a reading disability. And so she said, well, you just got to take your time. You got to sound out this, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, she said, but you can do anything if you just set your mind to it. And so even though we had ended real bad and bitter, I always kept that in the back of my mind. So when I stepped out and went to a new city, and it was just so happened to be the third largest city in the United States, it was a eye-opener. It was a shock, but I have strong faith and belief in God. And by me going through the storm that I had went through prior to getting to Houston, I knew Houston wasn't going to be as big as what I had been through with. So I knew through time that I would be okay. I had some up and down. I had some obstacles. I had some hills to climb. I've fallen, and I've got back up, dusted my britches off, and moved forward. And so I know that if I keep moving in the storm, I'll be okay. But if I bog down, then that's where the elements and the devil, the different people, different things take over, and you get defeated. And I'm a fighter, so I won't be defeated. So.
I hear that you're a fighter. You used a word just a little bit ago when you were talking about going through some of these things, and you used the word force. And you said, I was forced to do this. Do you remember?
Yes.
You heard yourself saying that?
Yes.
And what came to my mind is, it seems, Mr. Riley, that you've been forced. You tell me if I'm correct or incorrect. That you've been forced. A lot of things have been forced on you. The loss of your dad, the loss of your mom, the loss of your brothers, the loss of your family, the loss of your job. None of this was your choosing.
Correct, right.
And when we're forced to do things and continually forced to do things, sometimes we just take it all and take it all, and that's where it stays.
Correct.
It just lands there. And you had no fight. You couldn't fight back. Well, how can you fight death?
Right, death.
How can you fight a person who leaves you, or a plant shutting down? But I heard you say also, in that which we hold down here, I heard you say up here, I'm a talker basically. I can talk my way into and out of anything. I filibustered. You use that word. Most people don't use that word when they're talking about themselves.
So
but yeah, but so you have a way out, correct?
Yes.
But you said, I know that if I don't deal with these things, I will get bogged down.
Right, I will.
It will stay with me. And I know that's why you're here, because you know that all of these things collectively
that's bogged down and just
take you out of who you are. Right. And either turn you into someone else or almost make you fade to black, right? Non-existent. So I'm going to try to wrap it up, but here's what I want us to work on, what I want you to work on. Now, we have the scriptures that I gave you, correct? And if, while you're looking at those, you come across something that says, hey, this works too, I would like for you to write that down and bring it to me and tell me why you think it works. So that way, I don't have to continue giving those. I can, but I'd like to know where your help comes from in your.
Well, I have one right off the wham that I use. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Right. So right now I'm weeping, but I know that morning is coming, and I'll sing and smile and dance later on. But a lot of time, and as an athlete, I use that as with biblical and life. If you don't go through the pain, it's no gain. So if you get it all at once, then you don't appreciate it. So now I can go and then I can be a living witness or testimony to somebody else. Because I used to tell people all the time, when my dad died, they come, man, I know how you feel at the funeral. No, you don't. Hell, you don't know how I feel because your dad is still living. But I can tell them, it might not be the same scenario, it might not be the same situation of your divorce or your kid going astray or your daughter getting pregnant or whatever. But this is what I did when things happened to me. And through it all, I know one common denominator that we can all have is Jesus Christ. And so that's where I try to push, but that's one of them that always stick with me because I have wept, and even Jesus wept. But it was a joy because if it wasn't for him and all creation, we wouldn't be here. So that's the reward, and hopefully one day going to glory will be my reward. So I got some work to do. And like that lady, the sister at the church told me, why not you? Because she had went through cancer. Her husband had went off and left her, had beat on her, and a whole bunch of things. So when she got to telling me her story, hell, I said I felt pretty good. So that's where it is.
Well, okay, so you tell me, I hear you saying that you have a foundation, you have a stronghold in Jesus, in God.
Oh, definitely.
I want to know before we get to our treatment and your homework, I want to know, that's someone on high. I want to know what you have here or what you feel you have here on this earth. Who do you feel? Do you have a stronghold with individuals here in your life who can, when you're feeling like I'm a little down, or when you're feeling like Mr. Riley, Ben needs a push, where do you go? Who has your back? Who can help bring you up?
Well, the number one thing is God. I really believe in that, and the human part don't get results right then. But I don't trust a lot of people because of my past and what happened to me. So I don't let a whole bunch of people inside my little old window. But my older brother, I'll talk to him. I have different people. But really, I don't have anybody that I could just go and tell my story to or whatever. Here lately, my two boys, they are pretty good at listening, if whatever. I don't want to bog them down with a whole bunch because they got their life. My ex-wife, our relationship has gotten better. So if it gets down to it, I know that I can call her and she might tell me something I don't want to hear, but in the midst of things, but actually somebody, I don't have that, and I choose not to because I'm a likable person. I meet people all the time. I've met a lot of people in Houston since I've been there because I do a lot of things. But that part, I've never not let anybody
Okay.
get in that, and it's due to a lot of it, but because of my past, and I just don't trust people. And so the best person to talk to is God, because He ain't gonna tell nobody. So I'll usually just talk to Him, and I know through weeping and enduring my joy, so I know it's not gonna be a quick fix.
Right.
So I just got to hang on
Right.
because I've lived that for the last 20 years.
All right. Um, I agree 100% with that. And uh, I hear you saying that if you wanted someone here on this earth, you could have them because
Correct,
there
I
are
could,
people,
yeah.
and so you do have some strongholds and someone to talk. Well, everyone should have someone that they could talk to. But yes, the greatest, you have that relationship. It's solid. So the thing that I want you to do, since your physician has actually addressed that medical, that health part,
Correct.
we want to address some of the other things. And so, what I want you to do for your homework is the one thing I want you to do is I want you to go home, and it's called the empty chair technique. Okay?
Okay.
And the empty chair technique goes something like this. You will become the partner of the person who's experienced this erectile dysfunction.
Correct.
So you're not you, you're the other.
You're the health person.
Yeah,
of
you're
the
your
person.
wife
You're
or
calling for
your
help, right?
yeah, your significant other, and uh, who's going through the same struggles and circumstances. And what you're going to do is express the views that have rational thinking. Say, for instance, I think we could probably do a little bit of it now, just part of it. And so I'm you and you're me. So I'm going to tell you, okay? Or I'm having this problem
Okay.
and I can't get an erection. I feel like I'm no good if I can't get an erection. If I can't get it up, what
Right.
good am I to you? What good am I as a person, as a man? What would you say to me?
Well, I would say, well, have you went to the doctor to
Mhm.
see if it's something medically that's wrong with you, having chemical imbalance, different things like that. Nowadays, people Google everything. I'm not a big fan of that, but hell, if you Google it, testosterone, prostrate, a lot of those things are going to come up. So through the process, I'll help you and go and walk through that with you to see what it is that's causing that.
But I feel like I'm not a man. I can't pleasure her with.
But then you have to also look at it as men say different things, and I know as a man, you probably saying, well, you know, 2, 3 hours of sex, banging, this, that, and other, but that's a lie. Me and you know that. That's just a little pleasure of 24 hours. You still got 23 and a half hours left. Then it's other things that you can pleasure your mate with that don't have to have an erection. So if it comes down to that, a lot of times it may be, well, medically you can get something and it does do that. So it's not the end of the world. What we need to do is attack it, go head first, look at our options, see what's the problem, what's the common denominator, and then each one of those, attack those step by step. And then we'll be successful in getting you back to where you are. But that don't make you a man. What makes you a man is what's in your heart and the way you treat me, the way that you love, the way that you provide, the way that you spread the word, the gospel. That's what makes you a man.
Okay.
Because Mary hadn't had sex and Jesus was in her. She was of her age. So if you're really spiritual, don't lose that focus. Keep the eye on the title and we can walk through and defeat the lie.
Mr. Riley, that is wonderful. I think you've taught me some things here today during this session. Uh, but I want you to remember the things that you just told me in that empty chair technique.
Right.
Because when you initially came here and through your assessment, that was one of the things. You're like, I feel like less than a man, but you just fixed your own problem.
Right.
And
that's right. And so
about
I'm
right.
saying that
Yes.
most of the time, as the human part,
Right.
it overtakes
Yes.
the spiritual of what's in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said I ended up here, because I don't think that I'm less of a man.
Mm-hmm.
But the man ego trip or whatever we have in the chemical balance, that's one of the things, because men sit around, like I told you earlier, around
Right.
the tree,
Right.
around the barbershop,
Mm-hmm.
and they tell all these lies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Most of them are lies, but that make you feel macho.
Right.
And then you walk out and say, boy, I told them a bunch of lies, but they fell for it. But that make you cool, calm, and collected.
Right.
So that's why I know, but I'm just bogged down. And I just need some help.
I understand that. And so that empty chair technique could work for you when you're having some of those erroneous thoughts that don't quite match up with who you know you are.
Yes.
So hear yourself talking as if you were that other person.
Okay.
Talk yourself out of that. You think that might help a little bit?
Yeah, I'll try
Some
it.
self-talk
Yeah.
and some self-help. I'll try it. That's all we ever want to hear is I'll try it. The other thing that I don't feel like I've quite addressed, but that's why I wanted to kind of go through them step by step, case by case, so that when you come back the next time we can address those. But I want you, while you're finding the Bible verses and while you're doing the empty chair technique, I also want you to incorporate all of that loss. So as you're searching through and you're reading and you're meditating on the Word, look for those things that deal with loss and emptiness and how to get over and through that loss. And we're also going to do some more techniques to help you work through that. Because, truth be told, if you never get back with that wife, you have your children, you're saying, I heard you say.
I have 2 boys and a girl.
And you have a good relationship
Yes.
with them. And so that's a plus.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You have some relationships with some others. That's a plus. And you're working on you. You did also tell me that you're working, because this was one of the things that we're going to talk about, working on getting a little healthier yourself, because your brothers had passed away suddenly and without much warning whatsoever.
Right.
But I heard you
never
both
did tell
say
them,
that both of them were a little overweight,
Yes, they
and
were.
so was your mother.
Right.
And so you're working on that.
Yes, I'm working out. Try to at least 4 times a week, sometimes 5. The last 3 weeks, I've been working out pretty heavily, and I've lost some weight. I just did a complete physical, the prostrate and all that. All my numbers come back great, and so I have something to live for. I have something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
So now, it's always been about me.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always put other people first. But it's got to be about me now, because in order for me to put people first, I got to be the full and the whole me.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm half, I can't do a good job.
Yeah.
So I can't be a good father. I can't be a good grandfather. I can't be a good friend, good husband, good brother, or whatever. So I have to work on myself. And this is some of the things. And I talk a good game. My middle boy said I've been saying it for years. So I'm going to show him that even though I'm older, that old man can still do what he say and say what he do. So it's a challenge. And I'll go through some storms with that, I know. But the end result, it'll be, look at me now. So.
Well, I'm excited to kind of help you through this journey, and I hope that together we can help you become that person who puts yourself first,
Right.
somewhat, so that you can then have that relationship with the others that you want to have, and that you're here to enjoy it, because I think I hear you saying you want to be around. You're not
Yes,
trying to go anywhere.
I don't want to go
So
anywhere.
one other thing I was going to mention, you did say that you had also gone to the doctor before all of this other issue came up with the erectile dysfunction, and you were having some trouble with sleep apnea yourself.
Yes, I did, and I got a CPAC. I went because I was always tired. I'd go to bed 9 o'clock, wake up at 6, and before I got down the street, I was asleep.
Mm-hmm.
My brothers and my mom had this, and my sister.
Mm-hmm.
I was the last one. I was in denial
Mm-hmm.
that I don't need that, whatever. And I'm in good shape, but that was something that was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the doctor 2 years prior to this one,
Mm-hmm.
and got the test, and they were saying that out of 8 hours, I was sleeping maybe an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So I got that corrected,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel a lot better. I'm not falling asleep. I have more energy. So that's why I'm here now, because all the things that was ailing me or hindered me, that was medically, they could fix because it wasn't so far out of whack.
Right.
So now I have to work on myself
Right.
and within myself, so those things don't get out of whack where I got to take stuff. I'm 51 years old now. I don't take no kind of medicine besides a multivitamin and fiber pills just to keep my bowels regulated. So hell, if I can go another 50 with that,
Mm-hmm.
but it all determines on me taking care of myself.
So what we're gonna do here in the next couple of weeks is we're gonna try to make those meet, because you've got the health aspect down. It's a great thing that you went to the doctor and you got that, because I hear you talking a lot about the fatigue and all of that, and that sometimes lends itself to look like depression and
Right,
all
correct.
these
That's
other
what they were
things.
saying on that show.
Correct.
Right.
But now, not to say that you haven't had some things that would just, like you said,
Right.
use your words, bog you down. They'll
Right.
just make it over the edge, over the top, if you
Right.
will. And so those health things that you have, the sleep apnea and the starting to exercise, using the CPAP, eating better,
Correct.
taking the vitamins, that's going to fix that and make that solid. So over here, we're going to take these tools that I give you, your empty chair technique, your Bibles, your scriptures. We have something else that we're going to touch on next week, sensate focus, things like that, that are going to help you if sometimes you're having a little trouble still with maybe having that erection or whatever with your wife. We're going to talk also about your ex-wife and how that all plays together. We didn't get to hit on that this week, but some things that can help give yourself pleasure in the meantime, in between time, while we're actually trying to work on these other things, so that you can enjoy some of the things that you've always enjoyed,
Right.
no matter where you are, who you're with.
Correct.
How's that sound?
That sounds like a woman.
And I really appreciate you taking your time to come by here to help me and to let me help you, and we're going to get you where you need to be.
Oh, I appreciate your time and steering me and giving me the tools to tweak and to get better. So
All right. Thank you so much.
thank you.